Stop telling people to trust the process. If you're like me, you've been hearing that phrase everywhere you go. It doesn't matter what industry, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're always going to hear somebody telling you to trust the process. But my question is, do people really know what the process is? And so in this video today, we're just going to discuss what the process is and what you can expect whenever you are involved in the process. So first of all, I would like to define what is a process. A process is a series of thoughts, decisions, actions, and adjustments that we repeatedly use to move towards a result. In simple terms, a process is how you consistently move from intention to outcome. And oftentimes, when we begin to look within our lives and the different things that we're looking to do, whether it's financially, whether it's in your health, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's in whatever area of your life, oftentimes we get stuck in the process because we really haven't defined what the process is. And so when we think about it, a process is not one single action. It is a pattern that we begin to repeat. And that's one of the things that I find that a lot of people that I coach and a lot of people that I have conversations with, they most people just think if I do it one time, I'm done. If I do it this time, I don't have to worry about doing it again. But the fact of the matter is the process is something, there are actions that we repeat and we keep going until a desired result or desired outcome happens. For example, when I was writing my first book, the outcome that I wanted was to be a published author. The process was that I had to dedicate time once a day, several times a week, in order for me to sit down and for me to begin the writing process. The same thing happens in regards to our physical fitness. If there's a goal that you want to meet, if you want to lose weight, if you want to gain weight, if you want to gain muscle, if you want to sculpt your body, there's a process that you have to go through, and that process is called training. And most of the time, it's going to take 3 to 5 times a week in order to reach that goal. Another thing that we can work towards is become emotionally stronger. And when we go through that process, that means that we're taking the time to reflect, that we're becoming more aware and disciplined in the responses that we're given inside of the process. And so whatever it is that you're desiring to do, whatever your goal is, whatever you're trying to get to, the process is the steps or the series of steps that you're going to have to do in order to get the desired outcome. Because outcomes get attention. I'm going to say that again. Outcomes, results is what gets us the attention. And the processes are what creates the outcomes. I want you to always remember that. When you are inside of the process, whatever it is that you're working towards, the things that you're working on, there's always going to be the process, and the process is what creates your outcomes. The truth is, most people want the results, but they have not built the process that can produce those results. I'm going to say that again. Most people want results, but they haven't built or they haven't gotten inside of a process that's going to help them get those results. And whenever we just want results, that's just a dream. Whenever we just want results, that's just a fairy tale. That's just an idea inside of our head. But when we are willing to go through the steps, that is what gets us the results. So what I would like to do, I would like to describe what the process looks like. And how I'm going to describe what the process looks like, I'm going to give you 3 P's to describe how your process should look like. The first P, I want you, and also this is how I want you to evaluate yourself while you're in the process. And while you're in the process, that means that you're also progressing. The first P that I want you to think about, your process should be personal. That means that it should fit you, not your friend, not something that you heard online, not something that a guru says, definitely not a social media influence. The process must fit your personality, how you're wired, the things that you like, the things that you're good at, the things that comes naturally to you, even the things that you do not like, that you have to take that into consideration. It has to fit your schedule. In order for you to go through this, for it to be extremely personal, you have to have time. Because if you don't have the time or the bandwidth, you're going to abandon the steps. And that's what happens to a lot of people. Because the progress isn't personal to them, they lose the time. It doesn't fit them personally, so they abandon it. We also have to think about the responsibilities. What are the things that you have to get done while you're inside of this process? Because just because you're deciding to take something on, that doesn't mean the rest of your responsibilities are going to minimize or that you can forget about those responsibilities. Your strengths and your weaknesses, the things that you're good at and the things that you can improve on, and also the season of life you're in. Because a lot of things that we may desire to do, it may not be the right time for you to do it. So before you enter any process, I want you to think about these are the questions I want you to think about. When do I work best? What are my peak hours? Some people, they function better in the morning. I got a few friends, you don't talk to them in the morning. Matter of fact, you don't talk to them until after they had their first 2 cups of coffee. If that's you, you have to understand how are you wired and when do I work best? What environment helps me to focus? What do I need to do to create the environment for me so that I can optimize my actions, that I can optimize my thinking? The next thing I want you to think about, what rhythm keeps me consistent? Because without rhythm, rhythm is how the music moves, and also rhythm is how we move through life. And if you can create a great rhythm for yourself, you begin to find out that the things that you used to struggle to do, you now begin to do it easier. Because your process is personal, you are more likely to stay committed to it. When your process is personal, you're more likely to stay committed, you're more likely to be successful, and you're more likely to see it through. The next P that your process has to be, it has to be powerful. A process must move the needle. You don't have time at this point in your life just to be wasting time, lollygagging, doing things that are not meaningful, and doing things that are meaningless. It needs to move the needle in the direction that you're heading. Some routines make people feel busy, but do not actually create progress. Some routines make people feel busy, and a lot of times that's what people want. I want to feel like I'm busy. I want to feel like I'm doing these things. But we want to see things that the actual change is going to happen. A powerful process includes actions that have real imprint and make a good impact. Because when we are doing things, we want it to be powerful and we want it to move the needle. So, what does a powerful process normally involve? It involves focused effort. And I'm going to do a video about this, about focus. And what is focus? Focus simply is selective attention. What I choose to focus, what I choose to give my attention to, that is going to help me narrow it and it's going to make my effort correct. A lot of times we find ourselves putting effort on things that don't matter. We're majoring on the minor and when we should be majoring on the things that are going to move the needle in the direction of our favor. It's going to take deliberate practice. Yes. Talking about practice, like AI said, Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice. You have to put the work in. You have to go through the routines and create those patterns for you because how you practice is how you perform. Some people say practice makes perfect. I disagree. I think practice makes us proficient. And whatever skill level that you practice on, when the pressure's on, that is where you're going to revert to. We have to have accountability, having somebody that is going to hold us accountable. One of my favorite phrases is, where there is no accountability, there will be anarchy. That means people are going to run wild and they're going to do what they want to do. And we have to have accountability in where we're going to be going in our life. And the next thing that's going to make our process powerful is adjustments. We got to be willing to change. We got to be able to make things better as we begin to work through and as we begin to progress. A powerful process does not guarantee immediate results, but it guarantees growth and improvement over time. I'm going to say that again. A powerful process does not guarantee immediate results, but it does guarantee growth and improvement over time. And that's what I want you to understand. Things may not happen instantly, but it may happen in inches. And that's the way growth works. Growth doesn't happen instantly, it happens in inches. And I don't know about you. A lot of times in my life, I want things to happen immediately. I want things to happen suddenly. I want things to happen when I want them to happen. But what I found out is that when it doesn't happen instantly, it's happening in inches. And just because it haven't happened in my time frame does not mean that it's going to be incomplete. We have to understand that improvement happens over time. And I'm going to do another video about the Japanese principle of Kaizen, which is small improvements. And if we can make these small improvements and these adjustments, we will see the progress and the process that we're undertaking. If the process does not make you stronger, wiser, or more skilled or disciplined, it's probably not powerful enough. If it's not making you more stronger, wiser, or disciplined, it's probably not powerful enough. And so that's where the adjustments want to be. Wherever you see yourself getting to in your life, if what you're doing is not getting you there, you might need to make some adjustments. And the third and final P, it has to be productive. A process must produce something. You just don't want to waste your time. Not just activity, not just motion, and not just emotion, production. Something that you can say, this is the outcome of my work. A productive process leads to measurable progress. If you're not moving forward, if you cannot look back and say, I came this far from where I started from, you might need to do some readjustments. Think about it. When we think about it, how does it, let me say that better. What does this look like? This looks like, for me, when I was writing my book, that meant that was a word count and that meant pages written. For you, if you're exercising, that may be pounds and inches lost. If you're in a relationship, you see a change in the relationship dynamic, how you interact with each other, and it has improved. If you're working on skill development, you see an increase in skills. I remember one time when I was learning to play basketball, I had to learn to dribble with my left hand and shoot with my left hand, and I hated it because I was so right eye and right hand dominant. But when I started working on it, I started seeing the skills with my left hand, shooting with my left hand, dribbling with my left hand begins to develop. So if you see development, you are heading in the right direction and your habits strengthen. The right habits, let me say that. The right habits are strengthened. If months go by and nothing has improved, something in your process needs to be changed. Whether it's your personal growth, whether it's your finances, wherever you are in your life, if you have not seen an improvement, something needs to be tweaked, and it goes right back to those adjustments. A productive process creates evidence of progress. And if you don't have any evidence, you don't have a case. The same thing in a court of law is the same thing in a court of your life. If you don't have evidence, you're not changing. And so I want you to think about it. Let's look at a simple example. Say, for instance, someone they want to improve their speaking abilities. That means that they want to be able to share their thoughts and what's going on in here clearly. What this will look like. This means reading and studying communication. This means practicing their speech daily or weekly. It looks like recording themselves and reviewing the information and figuring out, how can I get better? It means speaking in small rooms before you get on large stages. It means asking for feedback, and it means refining your message. And so when we think about it, I want you to remember, whatever it is that you want to do in your mind, in your heart, and in your soul, whatever it is, you have to go through the process. And the only thing process is small steps. And I want to flip that just for a second. I want you to make it your process, not the process, but make it your process. Because when you make it your process, it goes from something that somebody else designed, and it makes you take ownership of what it is that you're building. Listen, it's time for you to trust your process. And remember, the process is going to be personal. It means it fits your schedule and your story. It needs to be powerful. That means you're practicing, studying, and improving, and it needs to be productive. Over time, you see measured growth and measured difference and distance in your life. People oftentimes say that they want to have the result, but you have to go through your process in order to get that result. People admire results, but results are simply the process being repeated long enough to produce the evidence. People often say that they want results, but the results are simply the process being repeated long enough to, to produce the evidence. So, again, trust your process. Develop a process that's personal, powerful, and productive. And I guarantee you, you'll see the progress that you want to see in your life. Tap the like and follow buttons for more content that's going to help you move forward faster. And as always, you are one commitment away from elevating your life to your next level. I'm Coach Cannon, and I'm committed to progressing forward.